Hey everyone, it is Fitz with your daily delivery. Hope you're doing well. I am fantastic because on Monday at 10 a.m. Central to be specific, on YouTube, the latest edition of the Life of Fitz podcast will drop. And I am fired up about this one. It'll show up at 11:05 a.m. on Monday morning at GoPowercat after the live version of it plays through. This week's guest, as I've announced on social media and at GoPowercat already, is former University of Kansas basketball player Scot Pollard. Now, why do you ask? Is Fitz having on a former KU player? Well, as I mentioned in the podcast was never actually intended to be a K-State podcast. It's about life stories, about my friends, and about those overcoming huge challenges. And that's Scot Pollard. If you don't know, he's now much more than a former KU and NBA player and a contestant on Survivor. He's been a bigger-than-life personality since the day he walked on campus, and he's kept that alive with the many different looks of facial hair and the things he did in the NBA, and then, of course, in 2016, being part of Survivor. But now he is a survivor, literally living out what that TV show's name's all about. If you don't know, Scot Pollard suffered a genetic heart failure. He needed a new heart, and finding one for a guy that's 6'10" and his size wasn't going to be easy. Somehow, the miracle happened and he found one. Scot Pollard unravels his entire journey on this week's Life of Fitz, and it is absolutely fascinating. I find motivation in my fight from other people going through things like I am that have faced, death, and they are fighting back against it. I find Scot Pollard highly motivated. I have great admiration for what he's done. And he too, just like I am with prostate cancer, is battling in public. He has used on social media almost every step of the way with his recovery, from transplant to all of the exercise he needed to go through. And I'm telling you, it was fascinating and emotional. With his wife, Dawn, at his side, Pollard has turned into an absolute warrior. The cancer community will welcome him in to use that title because what he's done is miraculous. Scot Pollard has gone from world-class athlete playing in the NBA to, being a guy that struggles to get out of bed. I was never a world-class athlete. I was world-class other things, but not an athlete. And I struggle getting out of bed a lot of days just because you don't have the energy. But a heart issue is something totally different. He doesn't have the same oomph he did. And of course, anytime you get a transplant, they have to turn off your immune system. So now he's susceptible to all of that. Scot Pollard's conversation with me is the 90th edition, the 90th conversation I've had on Life of Fitz. And I'm going to be honest, it might be my favorite because this is what the podcast is really about. And while I have spent most of my time talking to friends, a few years ago I decided to start calling people I didn't know before I reached out. And Scot is one of them. And he's a special dude doing special things, and I don't give a damn where he played basketball because life is a lot bigger than rivalries. And I can't wait for you to hear Scot Pollard's story on the Life of Fitz podcast dropping Monday morning.